Hey everyone, Gorzik here. Welcome to another episode of Let's Play Ys I Chronicles Plus for the PC. In the last episode, we finished exploring the shrine. Sarah told us that we could find a book of Ys hidden somewhere down there, and not only did we find that, we also came across a couple of the stolen silver items down there as well. One of these was Zepic's silver bell, rumored to have the power to repel the monsters just by ringing it. If you remember though, Zepic's mayor thought that the thieves up in the mountains had stolen this from them. But it turns out that that might not be the case after all. We also came across a young woman imprisoned down in the shrine. She doesn't remember anything except for her own name, Fina, and that she was imprisoned there by a man in a black cape, who she tells us seems to have the power to control the monsters. So, that's rather ominous. Anyways, we rescued Fina and took her to Jebus to let her recuperate, and then we finished exploring the shrine. As I said, we did find a book of Ys down there. It was guarded by a giant centipede known as Nightulgar. Upon returning to Sarah's, however, we come to find out that she has been murdered. So, who could have done this to her, and for what reason? Sarah's attendant here gives us another book of Ys. This one was entrusted to him by Sarah shortly before she died, so it seems like she knew something was going to happen to her. But we now have 2 books of Ys, and we were also instructed to head to the abandoned mine of Rastin next. So, what could await us down there? Might it be another book of Ys? Let's find out. The first thing I want to mention is now that Sarah's passed away, you can actually enter the back part of her home now. You can't do this when she's alive for some reason, probably just a matter of privacy, I guess. Anyways, there's not a whole lot back here, but there is this bluish-black orb on the table here. If you've played Ys 2 before, then you probably recognize what that is. As far as Ys 1, though, I don't think it plays a role in the story. I think it's just a little reference is all. Our next destination is the abandoned mine of Rastin. However, I am going to chat with a few NPCs here. The ones in Minea aren't necessary, but I feel like it helps with the flow of the story. And here in Minea, most of them anyways, changed their dialogue after Sarah's passed away, so if you want to speak to everyone, you can. This guy here says that if we know of any relatives of Sarah's, then we should inform them of her passing. We know of Jebba, and we will be visiting her shortly. This guy here says that he thinks that the man in the black cape is the one that killed Sarah. If you go into the bar, though, and talk to the bartender, we learned that the thieves were initially suspected of being behind her death. But then they realized that nothing was actually stolen, so maybe it wasn't the thieves after all. Maybe it was someone else. These other 2 guys don't really have much of interest to say at the moment, so... This house off to the right, these are refugees from Rastin Village, which, if you remember, Sloth told us was destroyed by the monsters shortly after they showed up, roughly 6 months ago. This guy tells us that the bats from the mine are the primary reason for that. If you've played Ys 1 before, then you know exactly what he is referring to. Not likely, miss. Not likely. If you go to the clinic, there is an injured man there who, like us, was attacked by rebels. This guy. This guy was apparently attacked by a whole pack of them, and he only managed to escape by running underneath a giant tree in the area. And once he did that, they quit attacking him for some reason. So, that's pretty curious. Before I head to the mine, I am going to head to Zepic, and also to Pim's here. I want to get a wing and a mirror from Pim to help when I do explore the mine. The mirror will be useful because not only are the enemies in the mine pretty dangerous, they are also in cramped corridors, so being able to freeze them can be a big help down there. If you speak to Pim, he comments on Sarah's murder, although as you can see, he is a bit of a dick about it. Didn't see her own death coming. That may or may not be true. I mean, Sarah did give her book of Ys to her attendant for safekeeping after all, so it seems like she knew something was up, but at the same time we were also instructed to go and speak with her again after we found the Book of Ys within the shrine, so up for debate, I guess. Pym also says that he thinks that Sarah might have been in league with the thieves. He doesn't say why he thinks this, but he is not entirely wrong, actually. As we'll come to learn in a little bit, Sarah was actually related to one of the thieves. Although, if you ask me, Pym is more of a thief than anyone. I mean, if you remember the Sapphire Ring side quest, he just picked that ring straight up off the ground and put it right on his store shelf. Didn't even bother trying to figure out who it belonged to first. As I said, all you really need to do at this point is just to head to the abandoned mine. That is over here. And straight north of this broken sign here. I will be heading to Zepik first though, because like that one NPC suggested, we ought to report Sarah's murder to Jebba. And while we don't necessarily need to do this now, we do need to do it eventually, and I think it makes the most sense to do it now, so that's what I'm going to do. So, let's talk to Jebba. She tells us Fina is currently out for a walk. So, as you can see here, Jebba is not too surprised by Sarah's passing. She apparently realized that something could easily happen to her, and she also tells us that Sarah herself probably understood the same thing, as evidenced by her entrusting her Book of Ys to her attendant to give to us. Not only that, she was a fortune teller, so kind of her job to know that kind of stuff. Anyways, we will want to speak with Jebba again, and we need to do this because we need her to translate the Books of Ys for us. We can't read them on our own because they are written in an ancient language that nobody understands nowadays except for Sarah and Jebba. And Sarah rather, is obviously out of the picture. So we need Jebba's help. Vagullion Hadal, this is the one we found in the shrine. It says, long ago, Claria was created in Ys, and that it was displayed in the Temple of Solomon as a monument to their prosperity. But suddenly, disaster struck. Monsters appeared, they destroyed pretty much everything in their paths, and they even reached as far as Salsetta. Salsetta, by the way, is where Adal has his journey in Ys 4. There are a few different versions of Ys 4. The canon version is Memories of Salsetta for the Vita and soon to be PC. There is also Mask of the Sun for the Super Famicom. There is The Dawn of Ys for the PC Engine. And there is also Mask of the Sun, A New Theory for the PlayStation 2. But in this case, Salsetta is being referred to back when Ys was still around, several hundred years ago. There are also mention of the twin trees. Those are the Rhoda trees. And the twin moons, I really don't remember what significance they have. That's just kind of a unique feature of Ys's world, having two moons instead of one. For some reason, I want to say that they are symbolic of the twin goddesses, but I just don't remember much of anything about them. But either way, I don't believe they play significant role in the overall plot of Ys 1 and 2, or if they do, then it's a very minor role. But again, I just can't remember much of anything about them. Vagullion Tova, this is the one Sarah's attendant gave to us. It says, Ys was healed by 2 goddesses and 6 priests. One of the goddesses represents order, and the other one, freedom. If they were ever to be lost, then the land would never again know peace, pretty much. Now, if you remember, I spoke with an NPC here earlier in Zepik. He said that he was reading a document that claimed that supposedly 2 goddesses had saved the land from calamity long ago. But the guy wasn't convinced that the goddesses actually exist, because why would they save the land from calamity back then, but not do anything about the troubles happening now? If you want to, you can speak to Jebba again. You don't need to at this point, though. but she says Ys was ruled by 2 goddesses and 6 priests, and that her and Sarah are actually descended from one of those priests, Priest Tova. She also says Sarah probably knew more than anyone else about the recent troubles in Asteria. So, if you watched my second bonus video, there is an optional scene you can do with Sarah after you rescue Fina from the shrine. You will tell her about finding Fina down there, and she'll be pretty shocked by that news. And she'll basically indicate that there is more that she needs to tell you. But first she still wants you to find the Book of Ys within the shrine. So, the reason Sarah was murdered was probably because she knew too much. Anyways, that's all we can do with Jebba at the moment, so let's go talk to Fina. She is out here on the pier. This stuff, both with Jebba and Fina right now, is necessary to progressing to the game's final dungeon a little bit later on. We don't necessarily need to do this stuff now. We can do it just before the final dungeon if we wanted to. However, I think that doing it right then makes it pretty confusing because there are several things you need to do, and the game kind of expects you to check up on both Fina and Jebba at certain points in the game, and doing it right before the final dungeon just gets confusing on what you need to do, because you would need to exit and re-enter the village at a couple of different points. Anyways, if you want to, you can talk to Fina again, but you only need to do it the one time out here. She says that even though she can't remember much of anything still, she is still at peace, because of her interactions with the villagers here and with Adel. So, it's not all bad news for Fina. Speaking of Fina, the NPCs here in Zepik change their dialogue after you rescue her from the shrine, so if you're interested in that. I'll only speak to a few of them though. This guy here says that he seems to recognize Fina for some reason, but he doesn't know why. So that's pretty curious. At this point, I am going to head to the Thieves' Den. This is completely optional, but I do feel like it expands the story, so I want to go and do it. Because if you remember, the thieves were suspected of possibly being behind Sarah's death, so let's see what they have to say about that. Let's talk to Goban. He recognizes the Tova Book of Ys, and mentions that he has spoken with Sarah in the past. He says they would never murder her though, because Sarah was his cousin. So, highly unlikely that the thieves here would be behind her death. If he talked to him again, he says the one who killed her, probably the man in the black cape. If you want to, the lackeys change their dialogue. This guy here says something rather curious, that they are all indebted to Sarah. I don't remember what he means by that actually, or if it's ever explained, but still pretty interesting. The bald guy just says something about another member of Goban's crew who we will come across later in the game. But for now, I'm just going to head back to Zepik. If you want to, you can speak to this elderly lady here. She says she has heard something odd out in the fields lately. Whisper, but she doesn't really know where it's coming from, so that's pretty strange. Anyways, if you enter Jebba's at this point, you will notice that Fina is back inside. To progress to the game's final dungeon later on, you need Fina to be back inside, and there are a few different requirements for this. First, obviously, you need to have rescued Fina from the shrine. Once you do that, you bring her to Jebba. She will be asleep, but you need to speak with her once she's awake. And to find her awake, all you need to do is to exit and re-enter the village at any point. Once you do that, Fina will be awake, and you need to talk to her twice. Once for her initial dialogue, and once right after that. The next thing you need to do is, after you find out Sarah's been murdered, you need to report that to Jebba. You then need to ask Jebba to read at least one of the books of Ys so far, And you also need to speak with Fina, who at that point will be out on the pier. Once you do those things, and you exit and re-enter the village again, Fina will be back inside, and when she is, make certain that you speak with her there. She doesn't say anything super important story-wise, but this is still dialogue that you need to have with her, so be sure that you do it. And again, this is all stuff you could put off until the end of the game, before you enter the final dungeon, but it's confusing what you need to do if you try to do all of this at once. So I recommend checking in on Fina and Jebba whenever you can. If you talk to Jebba, which you don't need to at this point, she offers you a hint regarding the mysterious whisper out in the plains. She says that it probably belongs to one of the rhoda trees, and that humans actually spoke with them at one point by eating their seeds. So maybe if we find a rhoda tree seed, maybe we should eat it and try speaking to the trees for ourselves, see what they might have to tell us. Now, if you remember, there was a muscular man in Manea's bar who said he was looking to eat a rhoda tree seed, but his reason for wanting to do this was because he had heard they are a fine delicacy. Speaking of the rhoda trees, this lady tells us where we can find them. These are the giant trees that she's referring to. One is towards the south, and one is west of the mine. And she also mentions this about she used to go out and pick fruit when she was younger. That is a reference to Ys 2, actually. The fruit she's referring to we won't come across in Ys 1, but it does play a role in Ys 2. At this point, there's really not much else to do except to head to the abandoned mine. Regarding the whispers and the rhoda trees, we can't do anything about that just yet, but one of the rhoda trees is 2 screens south of here, and the other one is west of the mine, west of the screen here. But for now, let's just head off to the mine, up here, over here, and right in that cave there. Now, I did mention earlier that if you wanted to, you could get to the mine from the bottom of the screen here, but if you happen to be playing the Eternal version of the game, you see this hill, this plateau or whatever, off to the side here? Turns out, in that version, it extends all the way across the bottom of the screen here. And so, in the Eternal version, you cannot get to the mine from the bottom of the screen. You have to go up here and come in through this passage off to the side there. Thankfully, when they made the complete version, they changed the screen layout to what it is now, and so you can get there from either way, so that's kinda neat. This rubble, this is the remains of Rastin village, which if you remember, was destroyed by the monsters 6 months ago. So, I am going to enter the mines now. I recommend saving often down here. The mines are a bit of a pain. To damage the enemies down here, we need to be level 5 with the longsword or the talwar, or we need to be level 6 with the short sword. As you can see, I am level 7. That's because I finished the shrine first. When you finish the shrine first, you will be level 7, maybe even level 8. However, I did mention last episode that you could do the mine before the shrine if you wanted to, provided you have the treasure box key from the shrine. But when you do the mine first, you are likely going to be level 5 or level 6. And while you can damage the enemies on the first floor, maybe even the second floor if you have the talwar equipped, you will eventually need to be higher leveled and a stronger weapon too. And so, while you can do the mine early, it's a bit of a pain in the ass because of that. Because we need to be max level for the boss down here in the mines. Max level is 10, and that requires a total of 51,200 experience. Yeah, we are quite a ways off from that point. The easiest way to do that is to simply fill out all the bestiary stats up through the mine. So if you've done that, you've learned every enemy stat, then by the time you reach the boss down here, then you should be at max level, or pretty close to it anyways. I will not be doing that though, because I feel like it's too boring for you guys to watch. And so, while I will kill most of what I see down here, I will still have to grind for a couple minutes, but it shouldn't take too long. Anyways, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there is a chest down at the bottom of the screen there. We need the contents of that chest, but to get to it, we need to loop around. So from the entrance, head left. Yeah, this enemy's usually right there. Head south from the crate. And off to the right is the chest I just pointed out. However, I want to grab a couple other things, so I am going to head down here first. So down here, oh man, there are a lot of these guys. There's usually not this many of them. Okay, down here and off to the right. This chest is usually guarded by a worm. For some reason there's two of them. But in the chest we have the timer ring. The timer ring is very useful, because as you can see, it slows the enemy movement speed to half. This is really helpful on Nightmare especially, because obviously not only do the enemies get tougher and tougher, they also get faster too. And near the end of the game, there is at least one enemy, probably more, that can outrun you. So that can be pretty scary. But having the timer ring equipped does help make them easier to manage. Slows them down, and that makes it easier for you to get lined up and attack them off center. So it's really helpful. If you want to though, you can still use the shield ring. The shield ring of course reduces the damage you take by half. However, I feel like the timer ring helps you to better avoid damage in the first place. So personally I like the timer ring, but use whichever one you want. If you need healing, which I do, then come up here, and this chest here contains a heal potion. However, you can't carry 2 heal potions at once for some reason, so if you have one, then use the one you have and grab another. Those worm enemies I am going to avoid because I really hate them. It is quite difficult to attack those worms off center. Anyways, we will head from this path to the right, towards that chest I mentioned. When the path forks, head southeast. This enemy is usually guarding the chest, by the way. He made his way over here to us, though. Up here, the top path, and oh, there's another enemy. Okay. I am really lucky that didn't kill me there. And in the chest is the silver armor. So, the silver armor is a great piece of defensive equipment, along with the silver shield. But we need the silver armor, the silver shield, and later the sword to enter the game's final dungeon. Now, technically, you can defeat the boss down in the mines without all 3 pieces of silver equipment, but on Nightmare it's pretty unlikely that you will be able to do that. But if you somehow manage to not to found them all, you will just need to find them anyways before the game will let you into the final dungeon, so no reason not to have the stuff. The silver armor, if you remember, Pim claimed that this was stolen from his store, but if you go back and show this to him, he'll be like, that armor looks really familiar. But you know, I don't think anything like that was ever stolen from my store. So, if you needed another hint that Pim isn't the most honest fellow around, there's another one for you. Anyways, down into the southeast. And in this corridor here, there is usually that worm over there. I am going to avoid them because they do a lot of damage. So on this mining pit screen, as you can see, I am getting my health refilled. Normally in dungeons, you aren't able to get your health refilled, but there are a couple of screens where you can do that. And for the mine, these pits with the bridges are one such place. So if you don't feel like using the potion, and you need to heal, just wait here for a few seconds. Anyways, let's head over to the other side here. Over here, there's another worm enemy, which I am just going to avoid as well. And here are the stairs to the second floor. The second floor contains new enemy types. Those purple guys are actually weaker than those worm enemies for some reason or another. Anyways, from the stairs here, head down to the right. You'll want to ignore the path off to the left there. Continue heading down. Ignore these paths off to the left. And head down and finally into this path off to the left. There is usually an eyeball rock monster guarding this chest here, so be careful of that. And here we find the silver harmonica. If you remember, Rhea the Troubadour was looking for hers. So, what's it doing down here, I wonder? We will return this to her shortly, however, we need something else down here first. And there's also an optional equipment accessory that I want to grab, which we will get right now. So from here, head right, up, over here. Ah, man. I had better equip the mirror, I think. Okay, and in this corridor here, with the eyeball rock monster, there's a chest there. To move this guy out of the way, he is stationary. We do need to attack him head on. Fortunately, since he's stationary, the game does play nice, and so the game does give us a free hit. But after that, you either need to move out of the way real quickly and let him pass, or quickly readjust yourself so you are attacking him off center. I am only level 7 with the longsword, so I can't do any damage to this guy just yet. I am about 500 experience away from the next level. 12,800 experience is what you need for level 8, and then I could damage him if I wanted to. If you have the Tower equipped, then I think you can damage him at level 7. But I will have to move him out of the way, or if you want to, you can use a mirror. I will try to avoid using the mirror, but we'll see what happens. So, this chest here contains the heal ring. Now, as I said before, you can't normally heal in the middle of a dungeon, but with this ring equipped, you can. You can use this anywhere you like, and this is very, very useful. So if you don't want to waste a heal potion, then find a safe spot and just stand still for a few seconds. I should be good. I am going to head out of here, down and to the right. Let me make sure. Okay. Down and to the right, there are sometimes these enemies here. Yeah, I'm just going to use the mirror here. There might be another one down here too. Yep. This guy should level me up actually, so I can just barely damage these guys with the longsword. I'm just going to avoid him. So here we have another mining pit, and the good thing about the heal ring is that if you're already on a screen where you can heal and you have the heal ring equipped, then your HP regenerates even faster, so that's really helpful. Okay, so let's head to the other side here. There is a chest over here, but it is guarded by an eyeball rock monster, usually. Those guys are really dangerous. I can damage them now, but I'm just not going to mess with them because they can kill me in like 2 or 3 hits. So, yeah, they are a pain in the butt. Anyways, we have found the Rototree seed. I came to this chest through the mining pit. However, if you want to, you can also get to this chest from the silver harmonica chest by heading up and to the left, one of those corridors that I avoided earlier. But if you go that way, there are usually 2 eyeball rock monsters and one of those bug type enemies that I killed earlier. So it is really dangerous to head that way, and so I usually prefer coming in through the mining pit. So I am going to leave the mine now because with both the rotatory seed and the silver harmonica, we are able to get a stronger weapon. And we need a stronger weapon in order to defeat the boss in the mines. I'm also buying another wing because we will head back to the mine and I don't want to walk out of there. Now, if you remember, this guy here was looking for a rotatory seed, the muscular man. You don't need to show it to him if you don't want to, but you can if you want to. He is going to hold off on eating ours, though, because he's worried that if he tries it, then he won't enjoy normal food ever again. So he'll let us keep it. That's nice of him. So, like Jebba said, we ought to eat it and try speaking to the rotatories. Before we do this, though, we will want to return Rhea's harmonica to her. And she is up on the city walls right now. She is not in her usual location. At the beginning of the game, you can find Rhea right here, but once you get the harmonica, her position moves to up here on the ramparts. So, head up here and speak with her. You do get 3,000 experience for returning her harmonica, by the way, so that's pretty helpful. She'll play us a small tune, and I'll be quiet for this. If you want to, you can speak with Rhea again. She says something rather curious. By some chance, are you... But she never finishes the thought. I don't know what she was going to say. Maybe she was going to ask us if we were single. At any rate, you might have noticed a vision of a giant tree. That was one of the rotatories. So let's go see what that was about. Now, there are 2 rotatories, but we only need to speak with one of them. And that is the one south of Zepik. The one west of the mine, it does have something to say as well. However, it's just dialogue. You don't need to talk to that one if you don't want to. So, let's head up here. Across this bridge here. Across this bridge. Down here. Past the pond where we found the golden vase earlier. Down here. And over to the left here. Where's that Regal at? Come here. Come here. So, you remember that guy in the clinic said that he was chased by Reballs and he ran underneath a giant tree? Yeah, looks like he was telling the truth. Enemies can't reach us here. This is a rotatory. This thing is freaking huge. Anyways, provided that you have eaten the seed, go ahead and talk to it. And with that, we are given the silver sword. Do you remember that kid by Sarah's place in Manea? He said that his grandpa had told him an Asterian fairy tale about how the silver sword was used to defeat the monsters long ago. Well, that's no fairy tale. It is real. If the tree isn't giving you the silver sword, you need to not only have eaten the Rhoda Tree seed, you also need to have returned Ys Harmonica to her. If you didn't return Ys Harmonica, but you ate the Rhoda Tree seed, the trees will still say stuff to you, but you won't get the silver sword. You'll get a different dialogue, a different cutscene. Anyways, if you want to, you can head up here. There is a locked chest there with a piece of paper containing a poem. That belongs to Rhea if you want to give that to her for an optional cutscene. I'll show that off in a bonus video though. I'm not going to do it now. But now we have the silver sword and we are able to damage the boss in the mines with it. Provided you're max level at least. So let's head back there. Okay, let's save the game. And back to the second floor. This path down to the southwest is a small shortcut to the second floor. I'm gonna get healed here. And by the way, you can switch your rings on the fly in the Chronicles and Plus versions of the game. In the Eternal and Complete versions, you have to go to the equipment screen to do that, but in the Chronicles and Plus versions, you can simply press a button, which is rather nice. So, on the second floor, head left from the stairs. Over here. Down here. And to the right here. Up here is the stairs to the third floor. Here there are new enemy types, these firebirds. They are pretty dangerous, so I recommend having the timer ring down here. But they do give good experience, so that's pretty helpful. There's another one over here somewhere. There he is. The path forks here. To the north there is just monsters, so head left. Over here there should be another firebird. And up here, where the stationary armored guy is. There is a chest in there, and we need that chest. It contains the key to open the boss room down here. This enemy is stationary. These are the toughest enemies down here. They can really ruin your day. They can kill you in like 2 or 3 hits. So I am just going to avoid them as best I can. However, there is a second one moving around back in this room, and I am going to just use the mirror and avoid it. Because they are pretty tough. And this one moving around, that one, he tends to always nick me, and I just don't want to mess around with him. So let's head out and to the left. Up here there should be a bug type enemy. No? Okay, there he is. Down here and to the left, if you need it, is a healing potion. Whatever. Yeah, I'll get it. Hope I don't regret that. I'm going to equip the mirror and use it too. Good timing too. Down here to the southeast. I'm just going to use the mirror again. Where is it? Should be over here somewhere? Okay, there it is. So, if you line yourself up with these walls here, off to the right, then you can just head straight up and down, and these bug types will appear. I really don't want to use this right now, but I think I have to. And you can just move straight up and down, the enemies will respawn, and this is a real easy grinding spot. These bug type enemies are normally pretty tough, but with this little trick, they are pretty easy. And I switched to the power ring here so I can do more damage to them because they take a few hits otherwise. So, we need 51,200 experience. These guys give 480. Those armored guys give 510. So, while the armored guys do give better experience, they are tougher to kill. They deal more damage, so I prefer doing it this way. So this should just take a minute or so here. Almost there. Just a few more kills. And that will do it. Is my mirror? Okay. Okay, to the left here, I'm just going to use my mirror now, because there are some of those armored guys over here. And while they don't do too much damage at max level, they are kind of in the way here, so I just don't want to take any more damage than I need to. So, this door here requires the Dharm key that we got from that one chest on this floor earlier. So, with that, let's switch to the heal ring, get healed up. Because once you touch that chest there, it activates the boss battle. It is a trap. So let's save our game. And over here, actually, there's a door, but we can't open it yet. So, let's touch the chest. And this is one of the hardest fights in the game. This fucker. Vagullion. So, what you want to do for Vagullion is you want to try and lure him to one of the four corners. You'll want him in one of the corners because, as you can see, he is a multitude of bats now. Being in one of the four corners helps him to kind of shoot over to your position sometimes. And what that does, it also clumps the bats together as well. It makes him easier to avoid. And when he's in the corners, that's where you want him to appear, because if he appears in the center of the room, then when he disperses again, he will be a pain in the ass to avoid, and you will probably take a bunch of damage. Now, occasionally the bats will nick you from time to time, but you will always want to keep on the move, because even though they will nick you, if you stay still, then the bats will do constant damage, and that's no good. There is a user who suggested to run in a sideways rupee. Okay, he's in the center of the room here, so he might be difficult to avoid here. And again here too. It's not where I want him to appear. So, if you run in a sideways rupee, then that helps to be able to avoid him better. I'll see if I can show it off here like this. And the user who suggested this goes by the name of Doomlord. So shoutouts to him. Now you might notice that when he appears, he only appears for like a split second. Yeah, you have only something like a tenth of a second to damage him, so when you think he's going to appear, just hang near him and be prepared to hit him. You will want to aim at his feet. Now, sometimes he will fake you out, like he'll pretend like he's going to appear, like that. He will never do this to you 3 times in a row. So if he's done it twice already, then be prepared for him to appear the next time. So here, he's already done it twice. I know he's going to appear now. We should only have a couple more hits on him. 1 more hit. I hope I can survive this. Oh boy. Phew. And that is Vagullion, one of the toughest bosses in the game, if not the toughest. So he takes 16 hits on Nightmare, and that's only if you are max level, level 10, and with the Silver Sword. If you are not max level, or you don't have the Silver Sword, he takes 128 hits on Nightmare. Yeah, you will probably not win the fight like that, so be sure you have the full set of silver equipment, the sword especially, and that you are max level. Anyways, the chest reappears, and we find another Book of Ys. Now before we take that to Jebba, this door is open. So, what's in here? Some pedestal. A statue had been placed here at one time. If you remember, I spoke with an NPC in Zepik earlier who said that he found a room down in the mines that had a couple of statues in it. And then he went back one day and one of the statues was missing. So this is that room. But as we can see, both statues are now missing. This door here, this is locked. We can't open it. We will come across this again in Ys 2, but as far as Ys 1, it's just kind of a red herring. Anyways, that's all we can do down here, so I hope you bought a wing, because if you didn't, it is a long walk back up. Back in Manea, there's not really much to do now. We did speak to the refugees earlier. This guy, if you want to, you can inform him that you have defeated the Bat Boss. Completely optional though, but it's just a neat little dialogue, I think. I don't think the other two say anything about it. Oh yeah, so at this point we are going to head to the final dungeon. If you want to, you can buy the 3rd set of equipment from these weapon and armor dealers. You might wonder why bother doing that. Well, I mean, because we have the 4th set of equipment, so why buy the 3rd set? At some point in the final dungeon, the silver set will get stolen from us briefly, and you'll have to make do with weaker equipment. So having the 3rd set of equipment could be of help to you. However, we will also find that 3rd set of equipment in the final dungeon, so you don't have to buy it if you don't want to, but actually in the Eternal version of the game, you can't find the 3rd set in the final dungeon. You have to buy it if you want to make use of it, but it's not too important if you don't buy it, because you find your stolen equipment pretty shortly after it gets taken from you, so not a big deal, but if you want to, you are more than welcome to do that. At this point, we are just going to head to Zepik Village and have Jebba translate the 3rd book of Ys for us. So let's speak to Jebba. Valium Dabby. This is the one we just found in the mine. It says, I speak now of the disaster of Ys. And, yeah. Their cities were attacked, their nations were destroyed, and just dire straits pretty much. It then goes on to say, surely the Cleria was the cause. So they sealed it underground so that they could have hope again. It then goes on to say, don't forget about it, but never lay hands upon it again. So, if you remember, if you've been speaking with the NPCs throughout the game, what were the people of Asteria doing before all these recent troubles started? They were mining silver. So, could that have anything to do with the Cleria? Anyways, we have asked Jebba to read all 3 books of Ys, so at this point you will want to speak to her again. Once you do, she tells you that there are 6 books of Ys in total, and that the other 3 are in Darm Tower, the Devil's Tower. So she is sending us off to Goban, who will let us in there. If you want to, you can speak to Jebba and Fina again. We are told that Darm is an old word for devil. So, obviously, we need to be careful inside Darm Tower. Talk to Fina if you want to. So we can see Fina has a bit of a crush on us. Talk to her again, she has some different dialogue as well. So if Jebba is not sending you off to Goban, then you need to do some other things with Fina and Jebba. To reiterate, what you need to do is, first you need to have rescued Fina from the shrine and brought her to Jebba's. Fina will be asleep at first, and you need to find her awake. So, to do that, you just exit and re-enter the village at any point, and Fina will be awake, and once she is, make certain that you speak with her. Twice. Once for the initial dialogue, and once after that. Next, if you need to, if you're doing all this at once, exit and re-enter the village, and then talk to Jebba. You will then report Sarah's murder to her, and then you need to ask Jebba to read at least one of the books of Ys. But if you have all 3 of them, then just ask her to read all 3 of them. You then need to speak with Fina, who will be out on the pier at that point. And once you do those things, if you need to, exit and re-enter Zepik again. Fina will be back inside. Make sure that you speak with her once she's back inside. And if you haven't already, have Jebba translate any of the books of Ys that you haven't asked her to do already. Once you have, then speak to Jebba again, and she will send you off to Goban. So, let's head to Goban. And before heading off to Goban, you will need the full set of silver equipment if you don't have it, by the way. The silver sword you will probably have in order to defeat Vagullion down in the mines. You need the Rhoda-tree seed, you need to have eaten that, and you need to have returned Ria's harmonica to her. The silver shield is on the 3rd floor of the shrine. It's in one of the rooms where you use the statues to warp. And the silver armor is located on the 1st floor of the mine. So, let's talk to Goban. He says his mother told him everything. And Jebba rather, referred to Goban as her son. Now, in the bonus video, there was a scene, if you take Fina to the Thieves' Den, And you talk to Goban, he's like, what are you doing here? Take that girl to my grandma in Zepik. So, yeah, I don't know if that's a translation error or what, but yeah. Anyways, he says that the tower has been swarming with monsters since they showed up, and that the thieves actually tried to get things under control in there, but they suffered quite a number of deaths. There is an NPC in Zepik who says that the Thieves' Den suddenly was built between Darm Tower for some reason, but nobody knew why. This is why. So that they could kind of guard it, so that no one enters there that isn't supposed to. But the enemies were too strong for them, so they had to retreat. He mentions Dogi. If you've played any of the other Ys games, then you've probably met Dogi before, but yep, this is where he makes his debut. He's in the tower. Yes, indeed. So here he tells us if we've mastered the silver equipment, we can go in. If you don't have it at this point, you'll need to go find it first and then speak to him again. But we do have it, so he will let us inside. Now, if you want to, you can talk to the lackeys here. They do change their dialogue at this point. This guy here is like, man, I can't believe you're heading into the tower. And he gives us a little bit of advice. If we need to, we can head out to one of the balconies. That will be our safe place in there. This guy... Yep, he's referring to Fina, whether he knows it or not. Okay, so before you talk to Goban in the passage here, this is the point of no return. So if there's anything you want to do before entering Darm Tower, make sure you take care of it. You will want to fill out the enemy entries. Numbers 1 through 20 you will not be able to find within the tower, so if you are interested in that at all, learn all their stats at this point. These last 4 are in Darm Tower, same with page 3 here, and the last 4 bosses. So everything else you should have. And as far as characters go, you will have numbers 1 through 86 if you've talked to them all at this point. So all except for the last 2. Now, Luda Gemma, you might not have found him, you might not have done the side quest with him, that's okay. You will also encounter him in Darm Tower. Item-wise, the remaining 3 books of Ys. A couple items in Darm Tower here. These blank spaces. The piece of paper will be in this spot here, so if you want to do that, return it to Rhea, you'll need to do that before entering the tower. But these spaces off to the right of that, there's actually nothing there. You can see I'm going to try to head down now. Just goes to where the piece of paper would be. So those 4 spaces off in the bottom right corner are just kind of a red herring, I guess. Equipment, you will have all 4 sets, 4 equipment rings, but yeah, I'm just not going to do that stuff. So, let's talk to Goban. He's talking to me from the side here. That's kind of a minor glitch that happens if you walk up to him in a weird way. So, yeah, one way only. This is the point of no return. So, do what you need to before talking to him. I love that dialogue. Of course I'll try not to get killed in there. Okay, and with that, I am going to end the episode. So, what could await us in Darm Tower? I apologize that this episode took so long. It was really, really difficult to get it recorded all in one sitting. Yeah, the mine itself is perhaps the hardest dungeon in the game. Vagullion 2 is also pretty difficult, but actually even just reaching him was the hardest part for me. So, yeah, this episode took a lot longer than I had hoped, but finally it is over. So I don't find Darm Tower to be too much harder than the mine. I find it mostly easier, as a matter of fact, but we'll see if I come back to eat those words or not. But anyways, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you for watching.